Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. And I'm going to say something that seems so shockingly obvious that it shouldn't have to be said, but it seems like it needs to be said. And I'm going to say it now. Gatekeeping is bad. You should not be a gatekeeper. Now, one of the things that shocks me is there's a lot of people there is a significant number of people. And actually, I wouldn't say it's a lot, but there's a significant number of people who are literally claiming the title of gatekeeper. Now, generally, from what I've seen, the people who are claiming back the term gatekeeper in the tabletop role-playing game community are people who play copies of old Dungeons and Dragons versions. Now, it is astounding to me that I need to say this, but don't call yourself a gatekeeper. Gatekeepers are bad, right? Now, I am going to point you to the doobly-doo below, where you will find a link to someone in the political world who also doesn't understand that the term gatekeeper is a bad thing. I can't believe we landed in a world where things should be so outrageously obvious, and yet they do not come off as obvious, right? Gatekeeping is bad. You should not call yourself a gatekeeper. But below, you'll find a link to Hillary Clinton complaining that we don't have enough gatekeepers. People keeping people out of the conversation or making sure that only the right things are said. Which is shocking, right? So let me delve further into the obvious, because obvious things are no longer widely understood. This is so shocking, right? So why should you not be a gatekeeper? And so first of all, what is a gatekeeper? And why shouldn't you be one, right? Now, there is great debate on what a gatekeeper is. I define a gatekeeper as the following. Someone who says, so let's talk about a Dungeons & Dragons gatekeeper. There were Dungeons & Dragons gatekeepers, okay? Let's talk about some obvious ones, right? In the 70s and the 80s, right? You would find LGSs, local game shops, clearly not friendly, and they would have some grognard in there, right? And I guess they weren't grognards then, because they'd only been playing for 5 or 10 years, or maybe 15. And they would say, and so, a lady would come into the shop, there'd be a group of men there, and she'd like, hey, I'd like to play in this Dungeons & Dragons game. Can I play? And they'd be like, no, you can't play, you're a lady, right? That's a gatekeeper. They're saying, you cannot play Dungeons & Dragons because this game is about men fighting monsters, right? That's a gatekeeper. That's a clear gatekeeper, right? And then there were subtle gatekeepers who were like, maybe a person of color comes into the same, or maybe it's at a college, right? And there's a dorm room, and there's, 3 white dudes and a white lady, and they are, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and a person of color comes and says, I'd love to play in that game, can I play? And they're like, sorry, we're all full up, and we literally don't have room to squeeze you into the game, but if a slot opens up, we'll give you a call. And that was subtle gatekeeping, but they were gatekeepers, right? People were saying, hey, I'd like to walk through this game and play your game. Can I do that? And they're like, no, you can't. We're going to gatekeep you out. We're going to make sure that you can't play. All right? So gatekeeper, or Dungeons & Dragons gatekeeper, is someone who keeps people from playing Dungeons & Dragons because they are either a person of color, or because the gatekeeper deems them to be the wrong gender, the wrong color, or some other parameter. Says you can't play this, right? So do not ever block people from playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? 5th edition specifically. All right. Now, shockingly, Hillary Clinton doesn't realize that gatekeeping is just as repugnant in politics, right? You should be calling for more gatekeepers. I can't believe the link below. You will literally see Hillary Clinton within the last week calling for more gatekeepers. Who needs gatekeepers, right? Don't be a gatekeeper. Now, let's get into the little more complex area, because that's exactly what I do, right? I don't like to spend my time saying what should be shockingly obvious, right? Now, what you should be is a gate caller. What's a gate caller? Well, right now, there's gates. Hey, come on over and play Dungeons & Dragons First Edition. Come on over and play Dungeons & Dragons Second Edition. Come on over, go through my gate of Dungeons & Dragons Third Edition. Come on over, go through my gate of Dungeons & Dragons Fourth Edition. Come on over, go through my gate of Dungeons & Dragons Fifth Edition. Right? You should be a gate caller. Call people to your gate, right? And say, come on over, get in here. We want everybody to play this game. Now, get this. If you're a good gate caller, there's only 3 people in the... There's only a finite number of people in the circle between the gates. And when you get them to come through your gate, that means they ain't going through another gate. Right? So, and because you want to bring them in and you want to keep them, right? Like, you want to make your game so compelling that they never leave, right? So while you should never be a gatekeeper, you should be a gate caller. And let's not pretend, right? It is a zero-sum game, right? When you get them through your gate and they start in your campaign, whether it's 7 sessions or 70 sessions, they ain't going to be playing those other games, right? Now, a lot of people like to call that gatekeeping because the internet is terrible and is terrible at nuance and abhors nuance. But that is very literally not gatekeeping. It is gate calling. So you should not be a gatekeeper, but you 100% should be a gate caller, right? So do not listen to Hillary Clinton. Do not ever think that an increase in gatekeepers is a good thing. And by the way, if you are listening to anyone who is attaching the word gatekeeper to them, you should really think twice about that, because it is not a good idea, right? Like, the things that are on the other side of that will curl your hair when you pull that rock back and the bugs skitter out, right? Do not align yourself with people who are using the term positively gatekeeper, right? That is not a good place to end up, right? Now, it is a good place to be a gate caller. Call people to your gate, right? Now, I call people to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition because it's the best gate, right? And when we win them, right, and when they come over and they come through the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, we don't want them to leave. Now, we're not allowed to do anything to stop them from leaving except run the most compelling, best game possible so they have no reason to leave, right? And I also believe calling people to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, right? It truly is the best gate, right? And the reason why the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition gate is the best, and you want to get people through it, we literally are calling them to the gate and say, please come on in. Here's a fun-sized candy bar while you pass through the gate. We're so happy you're here. And we do not care what color you are, what your preferences are, and we do not care what gender you are. All are welcome, right? Be a gate caller. Call people to our gate. Get them in and make your game so compelling they never want to leave for other, older, crotch-eater, more rundown, more crumbly gates. Oh, that's my edition. That's my opinion. Freudian slip there. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.